Hello, and welcome to this fourth installment of creating a Skyrim dungeon in the Skyrim Creation Kit. My name is Nate Blair, and just as a recap from the last few episodes, we were looking at more detailed propping. So we propped out this main entry, for example, added in um, the light fixtures, the tables, and similar changes to other rooms. We also looked at the final layout and completed the circuit for the dungeon. And in this iteration, we were focused on enemies primarily, and engaging the player with encounters with enemies and trying to fine-tune the last boss battle so that it felt like you were building to the final moment of the dungeon. So without further introduction, let's just jump into it. You can see that we already have our first enemy on screen. So he does a patrol around the tables at the head of the room here, the banquet hall. You can't see them, but off to the left, intentionally concealed by the rubble, is a group of bandits by their campfire. So this first encounter, when I was looking overall at creating the combat encounters for this dungeon, there were two things I primarily wanted to get right. One was that different play styles could find the combat encounters engaging, and two, that there was a natural ramping to the difficulty of the encounters. So the first encounters should be easier than the last encounters and should feel different. So we have a standard one-person patrol guarding the sleeping group of bandits over here. So there's at least two styles of play. I've also loaded in with not the default character, so we have a few more weapons at our disposal. So we can take out the patrol, and his friends are temporarily alerted, but we can hide. And now that we've taken out the patrol, we can wait for them to go back to sleep, and the sneaking type of player has a interesting mechanic here on the first engagement. So I play tested this level with a few of my friends, and they are more of the hack and slash style of players. So they went in with their axe and started brawling immediately, and they had a fun time with the enemies, doing kind of the more traditional Skyrim style. Personally, I'm much more of a sneaking type of character, so I paid special attention to how each of the encounters felt while sneaking. So notice that we have the three enemies here, and if I stealth by, I actually don't need to engage any of these enemies if I just keep moving by. Um, and then I thought that was an interesting mechanic that you don't always see in Skyrim levels. You of course can engage all the enemies and kill them, but I thought it was kind of cool to just be able to sneak by that camp if you felt inclined to be stealthy and slip by unnoticed. So in the next room, we have a mage at the pedestal here, and you can't see him because he's under cover there a little bit, but there's a second bandit, both with their backs to you. So again, I think it's more interesting to allow stealth-based characters the ability to stealth in if they want and get a good sneak attack. I'm going to do my best to not die, but I have a couple times. Some of these encounters are kind of difficult, so we clear through the second room. One other addition that I made since the last iteration was the secret doors are all complete, so the triggers all work. So you'll notice that this passage is now blocked. I wanted to play test with a few people to see if they were able to find where the switch was. Usually switches are very close to the door, but in this case, the switch is actually over here in the side room. And notice it's up here on the pedestal, so we can jump up here, we can hit the pull chain, and we go back. And the secret door is now open. So we through playtesting, the pole chain wasn't too difficult for people to find, but they did want want it to be a one directional. So right now it can be pulled multiple times for the door to reset. And they really wanted it to be, we pulled it one time and then the door remained open. And also that when you pulled it, that there was an audible, like ka-thunk, you could hear somewhere else in the dungeon. Just some audible cue that something did happen, since the pull chain is in a different room from the door itself. So we're going to engage here. This is my normal combat style, going with the sneak attack damage with your bow, and then finish them off with your swords. I'm actually I use light armor, so I'm pretty scared of these two-handed axe enemies. I think he may have gotten stuck in the crevice here. One other change that I've been focused on for this iteration is the nav meshes for the creation kit. I had never used the nav meshes before, and it turned out that none of the enemy AI worked unless you had both generated the nav mesh and then gone into each room and made sure that everything worked as you intended. And one thing that doesn't get auto-generated are any stairs for verticality that you have in the level. So there's a number of pedestals throughout the level and stairwells. I tried to make use of verticality throughout the dungeon, and none of those got pre-populated. So I had to manually go through and change all the nav meshes. So we were here at the final encounter. As we open the door, there is some unfortunate things that happen when I load in my custom character instead of just the default character. You'll notice that you can see some of these undead just kind of meandering about. They're supposed to be in the sarcophagus that they're next to. And as we enter, there's some triggers set up that you'll see the sarcophagus open and they would normally emerge. I have seen this work on the default character, but for whatever reason, when I load in my custom character, they don't actually load into their sarcophagi. So I'll have to investigate that for the next iteration. I don't know why that's happening. So we'll go ahead and enter. And there are the triggers where they would emerge. So we have an interesting mixture, the two undead, and then if you stealth into this room, you could actually, after killing those two, get a free shot on the main boss encounters. Notice that above the archers have aggroed as well, and that they're moving into position, and they will start taking shots at us. These guys have kind of a lot of health. One interesting thing that I did not anticipate with enemies is that they actually have built-in factions based on the type that you are using. So, for example, all of these enemies before this room are bandits, but I very specifically wanted an undead for the Jarl and a necromancer for the wizard that would be resurrecting him. But those two factions don't get along with bandits very well. So what I had to do is make copies of the prefabs that they have in the creation kit, and then change the factions so that everybody in this room got along nicely. There are a lot of brawls between the bandits at the top of the level, and the mage and the Draugr when they would come out. So yeah, this is the final encounter. I've playtested for difficulty a little bit, but I think there can always be more fine-tuning that goes along with that. Just as a recap, we'll go through and see here on the side we have the treasure room. So this is where all the epic loot you would get from that final fight would be. So I'll wrap it up in here. The next iteration, I got a lot of feedback from people that they liked the overall layout of the rooms, but that the dungeon felt too linear in a sense, like hallways and then rooms, and just a bunch of hallways connecting the rooms together. Not a theme or interesting use of verticality happening. So it was more attention to detail work that was the primary feedback that I got. So I think that I want to work on that for the next iteration, and get the level of detail in all of the rooms where I want. Maybe revisit the architecture one last time, reduce the number of hallway encounters, add branching paths a little bit, um, break up the templates in each of the small rooms, um, and yeah, just a lot of detail work, and then play testing some more to see what people think after the next iteration. Thank you very much for listening and watching. If you have any comments on how the dungeon is progressing, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I hope to hear from you.